Okay, so today I want to talk about Buddha nature again because it seems to keep coming up in conversations. And I'm going to call it this time Indestructible Nature. So if you'd like to meet your indestructible nature, your Buddha nature, when you do Zazen, come into the present with your body and mind and wait patiently. If you can come to the Zendo to do this, it's even better with the Sangha present as well. When you're settled on a cushion or chair, bring your thinking to a close as much as possible by breath practice. For example, take a short breath in and a long breath out until your breath begins to slow down. And then let your mind relax until the spaces between the breaths become as real as the breaths. At first, this seems to bring you into a very small point and can even begin to feel too tight. Letting everything else fall away may seem like dropping off something that's too precious to drop off. For instance, a lot of our self-nature that you often dwell on is not so easy to let go. So go back to it if you must for a minute or two, but really stay with your breath. Something much more precious than limited self is in the works. Don't stray from this close point of being. To continue this study, draw in all of the loose strings that extend everywhere from you, anchoring your mind and body very firmly in samsara, the limited world ruled by greed, hate, and delusion. And recall your scattered energy back into your mind and body where it belongs. When you relax within this closeness, much of your real energy is recalled, and this closeness that feels so uncomfortable can finally reveal itself as a great vastness instead. And it's made possible by your re-energized mind and body. It's amazing that, as open and spacious as the moment now seems, the indestructible self-nature that you are moves without any obstruction over vastness as easily as over closed spaces. When thinking stops, your mind opens fully and touches everything simultaneously with recognition and knowing, and it goes beyond your conscious thought with greater speed than the conscious mind can comprehend. Yet we can begin to act on this knowledge perceived in such an unconscious way, even without our understanding. When thinking stops, indestructible self begins to access the knowledge that we unknowingly perceive, and it makes it actual by incorporating this knowledge within our body and mind. Even a short, silent zazen can lead to a transformation within that can go unnoticed by our consciousness until we mature. We have knowledge that lies quietly within until we touch it in silence, in zazen. That knowledge then begins a great transformation of our whole being, in which our indestructible self assumes greater activity within us. Our self-nature of limited means acts with much greater color and character, but without the overweening sense of self-importance that drove us in our immature states. We assume the center of our universe then, as we are meant to do, and we begin to act with a greater inclusiveness. This is a natural maturation that once started cannot be stopped, no matter how long it takes. A month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, or longer. But it is your natural growth and is a joyful unfolding of your true being. A flower unfolds quickly. A tree unfolds in years. You will take whatever is necessary. This new openness and vulnerability is not something to fear or resist. From this unfolding and maturity, your being is enriched. Your mind is enriched. Your heart is enriched. And this includes everyone, which is your greater being, your full completion. You may not feel it some days, and other days you may be joyful for no reason. The world goes on as usual. Some days are difficult, but others are not. You feel all your emotions some days, but others not. And equanimity begins to grow imperceptibly to suit the change within. You adjust your temperament also imperceptibly, and expectations begin to fall away. The moment becomes real just as it is, and not just a means to get to the next moment and then the next. You spend your outside time in ordinary activity, but you spend your within time learning constantly. Your always present teacher has become your indestructible self, your indestructible nature. Thank you. Peter? Come on over. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. How did you know?
How did I know what?
You looked at me and asked me.
I felt this question mark really big and hovering somewhere.
Well, I am a question and a mark, so there you go. Yes, is this the indestructible Buddha related to the witness?
What witness?
The witness that we create when we observe our thoughts and our posture, that slight separation we have from the self.
I don't think it's a witness,
Mhm.
although it has a feeling of witnessing. I think it's just our awareness, which is always present, always there. And every moment that even when we're unconscious, it's aware. And we have to wake up to that. It's always present and always noticing, always aware. And that's why we can't fool ourselves when we do something really off color for us. When we go against our natural code of conduct, our ever-present awareness sees it clearly, even if we're unconscious of it, and it gets through to us eventually. And we're lucky because that's how we change. We can't fool ourselves.
When does this awareness fill up?
What do you mean?
Well, we start off trying to be aware.
Yeah.
And we go through little moments, glimpses, like the blinds fluttering in the window and you can see out. But when did you know when you were there and the blinds were open?
I feel like it's not so much that when, it's that I just never noticed before, but it was always there. It's like you're always aware that something is always present, and you think maybe it's God or something, but it's always present. You're always noticing everything. You never miss anything. And when you do something that goes against everything you think you should do, you always feel bad and you don't know why. But it's that awareness. You're aware that you're doing it, but you're still hiding from the fact that you know that. And so it's not so much a when as why haven't we noticed it before?
Thank you.
We're always aware, always. You cannot fool your own mind, because you know when you're behaving right and behaving wrong. And so I think that's why if we hurt somebody, we're the ones that feel it, not them, not as much as them. Their feelings may get hurt, but we feel really bad inside. And the worse separation we are from it, the more we suffer inside, until we recognize that, and then we can change it quickly. You can make amends quickly when you suddenly realize, oh, of course, I saw that myself. No wonder I'm feeling bad.
Yes, when we act out of, let's say, our maybe base behaviors, or
Yeah.
I think
Greed,
initial
hate, or delusion, whenever
Yes.
we are ruled by it, we know it. And that's why we can't feel comfortable when we're living in samsara, because we're still ruled by these three poisons. And so we can't hide from that fact, even though we think we're okay, even though we think we can make samsara wonderful and a nice place finally. We know we can't, because it's only the world of greed, hate, and delusion. So we have to wake up from that.
Thank you, Jane. That was very nice. Very good.
Ian.
Huh? Ian?
Oh, I just wanted to add a personal experience based on what you're speaking about. And so earlier in the hallway, I was walking around the hospital. I have a lot of time to reflect at my job because I'm a security guard at night. So it's real quiet. And I was thinking about one of the nurses got me in trouble. And I've been carrying around this anger for the nurse. And then I went, no, she doesn't care. You're the ones carrying it around. She doesn't, because she said hi to me in the hallway, and I said, I'm not going to talk to her. I'm gonna be rude, and I'm gonna walk past her. And then she said hi to me, and I went, I have to go to lunch. And she went, okay. And then I turned the corner and I went, you bonehead. She was being nice to you, because now she's gonna be mad at you. You just mucked it all up. And then I went, all right, that's it. And then I went, I release you, and I got rid of it.
Good.
And I said, and then the rest of the day I was fine. And then I saw her and I went, and then I didn't see her later, but I was gonna give her Rice Krispie treats. But anyway, that's my story.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But that's exactly, because it was rubbing me the wrong way. I was like, are you keeping the precepts right now? Are you doing that? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I have a little Muppet in my head that has the precepts all memorized, and he goes, no, that's not good.
That's your awareness.
Yeah.
That's your indestructible self.
Yeah.
The one that is always present,
Yeah.
never not present.
Yeah. So that's exactly what you're talking about. And when I catch myself in those little ego moments and I go, oh, okay, there it is. And I'm starting to be able to pinpoint it, just like Battleship. Go, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they're called three poisons for a reason, that when you very obviously do something that has to do with greed, hate, or delusion in some way, and when you give life to it, you feel bad inside, and it's because you're poisoning something in your whole being.
Yeah.
And your awareness is trying to tell you, wake up, what are you doing?
Because I was studying the 5 hindrances too, and that's the same thing.
Yeah.
When you get into the 5 hindrances and they talk about how these emotions, like anger is a really powerful emotion, and it can completely cloud. It's very subtle, this little thing here. It's a little tiny small voice, and if you have anger on top of it, you can't even hear it. It's like the roar of the ocean.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So you actually have a teacher in you all the time, but it's you.
Yeah.
And because nobody knows you like you do. You literally can't hide from yourself.
There's Suzuki talks about that guy, the Zen master that used to talk to himself. He'd do check-ins.
Say hi.
Yeah, and he'd say, how you doing? I'm okay.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time.
It's like saying Peter or Jane, hi. Yes. Yeah. Oh, Matt?
Yeah, I'm feeling greedy to share one of my delusions, and I really hate it. The greed, hate, and delusion language that is used. I think that it's the language is very misleading, and I know that Peter has switched more to aversion, anger, and ignorance or delusion. He sometimes uses one or the other, and it was actually something I had been thinking about prior to my hearing Peter use that. Is it possible? Would you mind switching to that? It's just a request. Only because I find that I was confused by it, and perhaps it would help others. I don't know. If I may be, as I said, I may be delusional about this.
Well, this is why Peter and I like working together. You get the other version with him, and you get this version with me. I like this version because I think it really covers a lot of what we try to hide inside when we do something stupid. You know, that desire wants, every time we want something, but desire is really just greed all over the place. And hate is just anger and all kinds of emotions, not just, it can be rage, hatred, resentment, you know, any kind of thing, but it comes all under the heading of hatred for me, which is a very negative emotion. But when we give fruit to it, as it were, we feed it. I forget, where did I see this? It said there's an Indian saying that you have two wolves inside, and one of them is hatred or something, and be careful which one you feed.
Which one wins the fight between the two?
Yeah,
The one that you feed.
yeah, that's what I thought. I heard that somewhere. So it's like we can't feed the negative parts of us without paying for it, and that's what we don't realize until later, when you find that you feel worse than the person you hate, or the person you're angry at, or the person that you blocks your desires and things, but you end up feeling the worse for it. Mitch.
Good morning, everybody. I don't want to sound too stupid here, but we started off on a discussion of the self-discovery of our true nature and allowing it to, I say, blossom during Zazen. I missed the segue to greed, hate, and delusion. And I mean, it's not that I don't sort of kind of understand that, but in this discussion, I missed the segue.
Okay, well, what happens, your
Thank you.
awareness, your indestructible nature is trying to wake up to the fact that you have this nature inside of you, and that it's always present and always observing, always being part of you, and doesn't hide from anything, but it doesn't cling to anything either. But so you're always, no matter how badly you behave, you always know it. Even if it's more of an unconscious thing, you still know it. And that's because we're still trying to wake up from greed, hate, and delusion, which are these three foundations of being in the world of samsara, which is a self-made world. And we're trying to wake up from that. And so if we can pay attention to how our indestructible mind, which does not get sidelined by little things, sees the world, if we wake up to see that way, then we can free ourselves of those three poisons. And when we do that, we can free ourselves of living in this self-made world, which is very limiting. That's how we get into it. Go ahead and debate. You don't have to accept that. You can argue with it.
No, I can't argue with it.
Can I argue with it?
You have the
Matt, tag, you're it.
No, we have. Do you have a question, Jeff?
Oh, then I'll be quiet.
Yeah, actually kind of going back to indestructible nature, Buddha nature, that we talked about last Tuesday in emptiness. It's all really the same thing. Is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Exactly. Yeah. Did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wondered if you could tell us about the self-made world that all of a sudden appeared.
No,
your conversation.
samsara is still around. It's been around all along. And we live in a world that we've created, you know, with our thinking. If, for example, if you believe that people are separate from you, that's the self-made world, because we're actually one being. So anything that separates you from everybody is samsara, or the self-made world. So when you believe in any way that people are bad, or something, you're ignoring that they're you. You know, you're separating yourself again. So when we find that the three incredible poisons at the heart of it are what rule us without our knowing it most of the time, although our inner self makes us very aware of it and makes us dissatisfied all the time, or not happy with the world we're in and wish that things were better and such. Then that's because we're still stuck in this world of greed, hate, and delusion, which we've been acting on all along, ruled by desires, ruled by angers, hatreds, resentments, ruled by jealousies, ruled by ignorance of the world, ignorance of the fact that we're one being rather than, us and them. We're not, as long as we live in a world of differentiation, that's samsara. Dualistic thinking, that's us. So when you begin to see a unity in things, then you're beginning to question that world that we think is real.
Rachel.
Rachel? Where's Rachel? Oh, there you are. Rachel.
Thank you. This awareness then, rather than the thinking things through, can the awareness be essential to the equanimity sought after? If someone is in the midst of disharmony, deliberate or accidental, sometimes created by others, and I'm not speaking of violent behavior, but just, in the midst of disharmony, that's the strife that you can easily find sometimes in situations, and you're just simply present. Can that awareness, rather than just thinking it through and realizing logically all that, the awareness itself have a strength so that you can maintain equanimity in disharmony that
Yeah.
not resolving and you don't even have any part of.
Yeah, actually, what I said here at the end of the talk was the world goes on as usual. Some days are difficult and others are not. You feel all the emotions some days, but not others. And equanimity grows imperceptibly because you're paying more attention to your awareness. And awareness, by the way, does not think in that way, does not leap from thing to thing. Awareness is simultaneous, it sees everything instantly and does not cling to anything. That's the difference with our normal thinking.
Is it a kind of absorption?
I don't know about that. I think it's it just sees something and that's it. It can pick up on like 10 things at once without making a leap to leap to leap to leap and then connecting it with a thinking pattern. It just is aware of it. It sees it, and the awareness is recognition and knowing. So we have a lot of knowing inside without even being aware that we have it. And it's mostly because we're unaware of our indestructible nature inside. We're unaware of it. And actually, that's the side of us that has all the knowledge. And so we act on it a lot of times because it's us as well. The indestructible nature is us. And so anything that has to do with knowing is like, we understand it's there, but we don't understand how. So we're in a pattern of not knowing. But there's a side of us that is knowing, knows all of it, sees it instantly. But it doesn't think like we do, this and this and this and this, like that, which is time consuming. It's like timeless, kind of.
The reason that it's indestructible is because it's always changing.
I don't know.
What does that mean?
I was going to say more.
I'm not sure that's true. I kind of think that it's not, it doesn't,
Like it's reflecting or showing everything that's changing.
Something
to
like
me,
that,
it
yeah.
feels like when I can touch on it, it feels stable, and then I can, when I'm resting in awareness, that I'm noticing everything that's arising
yeah,
in my mind, the things that I might have not noticed
Yeah.
that were there.
yeah, like that. But it's not, You don't have to ponder on it to
Right.
understand it. It's there, period. It's like, it is like a reflection, but it's more than, it's an intelligence.
Yeah,
And so it understands, we understand a lot more than we know, but we're ignorant of it. So we understand enough to know that things can be one being rather than differentiated. And we understand that we have a much bigger nature inside that's compassionate and kind, but we're still like thinking all the time about it. It's like we're putting it together like a puzzle, and it's not like a puzzle. It's like a beautiful, clear awareness. If you sit, for example, in Zazen and you let your mind stop thinking, or at least as much as possible slow down, you can feel that presence of yourself. And we often think of it as presence, and you might even call it God, but I don't, it's not. It's us. Everybody has this awareness. And sorry.
Yeah, I get a signal saying it's going to turn off soon if I don't.
Oh,
Plug it in.
technologies.
Do you need to put it in here, Peter?
I have a comment. So to me, it kind of sounds like, when you drive across the Golden Gate Bridge, you understand you're on a road, and you're going from one part of the bay to the other. But if you stop on the bridge and you look at the ocean, you understand there's something else out there.
Yeah,
That's
like that.
That's kind of infinite.
Yeah, like that. But for
Yeah.
example, if you're sitting and your mind stops thinking all the time,
Yeah.
and you're just relaxing, and you hear everything around you, but you don't find, oh, that's a bird, that's a thing, that's a, you don't, it's all right there for instance, and you understand it
It
instantly.
kind of snaps into place.
Yeah, everything snaps in place, and so it's more of it's you as you really are. And that's the thing, is that we're just like ignorant of it most of the time, ignorant of that beautiful side of being.
Would you say it's like the background of everything? It pervades everywhere. We just ignore it. We don't see it unless we take our gray matter out of the situation.
I don't know of how I would see that.
Well, I kind of was thinking that, I don't know why, I was thinking of a jellyfish for some reason, but they're very intelligent, but they don't have any real brain.
Uh-huh.
And the idea that we have these colossal brains. that
It's
do
not a brain.
But it's the thinking that comes from the brain, the habitual thinking and
Yeah, the
building your own private Idaho in your head that eventually takes us out of that realm of the experiential world. And we have to kind of backtrack to it, I guess, and just try to remember and try to bring it there all the time by getting a hold of our brain matter and our desires
it's
and
not a
neighbors.
brain in that way. It's more of it's like the intelligence is in your body as much as anything.
Yeah,
It's like it's in your hands, it's in your abdomen, it's in the middle, it's in every part of your body. It's like when you play a piano and your hands start learning and knowing things, know how to play without looking at anything or type without looking. There's this intelligence going on there, but it's not, we think it's the brain directing it. It's intelligence right there. Your whole body is a form of intelligence. And you access that when you sit and do nothing but sit.
you're reconnecting
Yeah,
the mind with the body.
yes, you're reconnecting. Oh, I'm sorry, Mitch.
Yeah. If we look at this on a spectrum, we're householders. How far can we really get? You have to make a choice of what tire to buy, or
Then you usually,
we're not in a monastery. We're not sitting in a cave on top of a mountain or anything.
this has nothing to do with monasteries at all. It just has to do with when you behave well, you know it, and when you behave badly, you know it, and you have some way to correct yourself so that you don't, fall down without any help at all. The real help you get is always from yourself, even if it's coming from outside. But it has nothing to do with monasteries. it has only to do, if you're buying new tires, use your brain. You know, look it up, check it out, read about it, talk to people. You know, but when you're just living your life and behaving with other people, and you feel like this presence is always with you and observing you, and you're paying attention to it, then you behave with a lot more care than you would, say, just going out and doing your whole thing because you feel like just having a great time. But if you're doing things in the ordinary world, use your brain, because that's your self, you know, your self nature has to do with thinking and assessing and differentiating.
That's my handicap.
No, it's not a handicap. It's an added, it's part of this
I'm
incredible.
talking about my brain.
Golf.
Oh, that's your golf. Yes, use your brain in golf. But when you have a choice of harming somebody or not with your brain, with your golf club, use your bigger mind. Oh, let's see who's next. Matt?
I
Matt?
think Michael was ahead of me.
Oh, Michael?
You're ahead of me.
Okay, Matt. That's one of you.
Would you equate this presence with kind of a silent stillness?
Definitely. Yes. Yes, because when you're silent, you allow this bigger part of you to be present. And when you're talking with your brain all the time, you just don't notice it. Michael?
I may be off base on this, but I got the impression from your talk that our real natural self is the self that we try to nurture when we're in Zazen. That when we are truly aware, that is our reality. But because we have to interact with each other, we have created a smaller self, which I guess we call the ego and stuff. And it has its purpose, but we've gotten confused with what's really in charge of the whole situation. And so we get caught up in our thoughts and our desires, and even our desire to become enlightened and our desire to become aware. We get caught up in that. But Zazen shows us that when we are in total awareness, there's no adjectives, the real reality. That is what's there, and you can't create it, you can't force it, you can't direct it or nothing. When you're in that position, you will naturally do what we call correct. We will be compassionate. We will care about each other. We'll be compassionate toward ourselves. We won't become obsessed with, I'm going to be a great person, or I'm going to stop being a bad person. It just happens. And the only reason why it doesn't happen is because we believe we have control over certain aspects of our life. And so there's that battle. But is Zazen, like they say, Zazen is enlightenment? Is that what's being stated in the sense that when you're in Zazen, you are in the big reality? And that's what will happen on its own if we just let it, and everything will work out right. Am I close?
Yes, you are actually. I think saying that when you're sitting Zazen, you're in a bigger reality. I think that's a good way to say it, actually. Yes, I think you said it very well. And the minute we stop competing with the small mind, with our real self, then, you know, it's like you can dress up yourself any way you want, but you can't dress up your indestructible nature, because it is what it is. And so when we see ourselves doing something wrong, we see it without question. There's no doubt in our mind that we're not behaving right. So we're lucky.
Our Buddha nature doesn't require our help.
Does
You know,
not.
we think we need to push it and form it and shape it and shove it down the road. But no, if we just sit back and relax and let it do.
Yes, relax and let it drive. What is the ad that was in the 50s? There was an ad about bus driving. It says, sit back and let us, what is,
Leave the
Greyhound.
driving to us.
leave
Leave
the
driving to us.
driving to
Mhm.
us. That's what it's like.
So,
Is-
so the big reality is a Greyhound bus, just get on, sit back, relax, and it'll take you where you're going.
and because it knows where we're going. We know where we're going for real.
We think we know, but it does know, and just let it do it.
We know because that is us, but we get involved in, wanting things and stuff. So we fool ourselves about it. Yeah.
We want to drive the bus ourselves.
So we can actually relax into our own nature. And I think that's what is meant by rest the self on the self. How does it go, Peter?
Settle the self.
Settle the self on the self. I think that's what it means. Settle your small, inquisitive mind on your real strength, and float with it, as it were. And trust yourself to your real self.
Thank you.
Did I see your hand up, Jeff?
No.
No.
I was
Okay.
probably just
Okay, anyone else?
Anybody? Oh, Chris?
I like what you said just now about settling the self on the self, because I had always sort of figured like it was settling the big self on the small self, kind of like being over on top. But I kind of like the idea that if we're sitting zazen, we're actually settling our small self, which is this, meat suit on top of the entire world, making like the little top nut on a Buddha statue. Like when we perch in zazen, we're like the little tiny bit on top of a giant Buddha statue.
I don't know how that would be, but
That's a little upside down too, because it's,
Yeah.
because the absolute is from here.
so anyway, we're just settling our inquisitive, talkative mind calmly on our powerful, indestructible being that we are often unconscious of, most of the time, actually. Yeah. Anybody else? Are we done?
Oh, good.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.